I feel good. It's just continuing to take care of my body, which I feel like our entire team has really done a great job of doing that this season.
Caitlin Clark feels great. And on Friday night against the Golden State Valkyries, she proved it. 22 points, 9 assists, 4 made threes. A logo 3 that tied the game in the third quarter.
Clark, oh, from another stratosphere!
But the numbers don't tell the full story. Because what Caitlin Clark did on Friday night wasn't just about offense, it was about defense. The narrative that's followed her for years, that she's a bad defender, that she's a liability on that end of the floor, that teams can attack her and get easy buckets. She addressed it head on, and she destroyed it. Late in the fourth quarter, Clark had 5 fouls, 1 more and she's out of the game. The Valkyries saw an opportunity. They targeted her. Twice in the final minute, they isolated on Caitlin Clark, put the ball in their best player's hands and went right at her. And both times, Clark got the stop. After the game, when a reporter asked her what those defensive stops meant, Clark said something that's been a long time coming. She said, "I think there's probably definitely a narrative of me not being a great defender, but I can guard." Let me break down exactly what happened, why those words matter, and why the haters who've been pushing the bad defender narrative are now scrambling for excuses. Let's start with the game. The Indiana Fever came into Friday night riding a 2-game winning streak after beating Portland without Caitlin Clark. She had missed Wednesday's game with back soreness, the first game she'd sat out all season. There were questions about whether she'd be ready to play against Golden State, but Clark was in the starting lineup. And from the opening tip, the Valkyries made it clear how they were going to attack her. They went right at her on defense, hunting ISO, trying to tire her out, trying to expose her as a weak link. Clark explained it after the game. She said, "That was kind of what they were just doing, is hunting ISO, especially on me, like just ISO, 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 top the key." The Valkyries weren't hiding their game plan. They wanted to attack Caitlin Clark one-on-one. They wanted to prove she couldn't guard. And if the narrative about her defense was true, this should have been the game where it showed up. Where Golden State scored easy buckets, where Clark got beat repeatedly, where the Fever had to hide her on defense just to survive. But that's not what happened. The Fever forced Golden State into contested 2s all night. In the fourth quarter alone, the Valkyries shot 4 for 17 from the field. 4 for 17. That's not the result you get when you're successfully attacking a bad defender. That's the result you get when the defense is locked in, when players are in the right positions, when they're forcing tough shots. And Caitlin Clark was a big part of that. She wasn't perfect. She had 5 fouls. She made mistakes. But when it mattered most, when the game was on the line and the Valkyries were trying to close the gap, Clark came through on the defensive end.
I think there's probably definitely a narrative of me not being a great defender, but I can guard. Like, I'm long, I know angles, and, I can get my hands out, I can be active, and...
With 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter and the Fever protecting a lead, the Valkyries isolated on Caitlin Clark. She had 5 fouls. 1 more and she's done for the night. The refs had already been whistle-happy all game. Clark had picked up a technical foul at halftime and a flagrant foul with 2 minutes left in the game. So she was playing on thin ice, and the Valkyries knew it. They put the ball in their best scorer's hands and attacked Clark. Twice. And both times, Clark got the stop. She forced contested shots. She stayed in front of her defender. She didn't foul. She made them work for every inch. And the Fever won 90-82. After the game, when a reporter asked Clark what those defensive stops meant to her, she didn't shy away from the question. She acknowledged the narrative. She said, "I think there's probably definitely a narrative of me not being a great defender, but I can guard." And then she explained exactly why. She said, "I'm long, I know angles, and I can get my hands out. I can be active." Clark is 6 feet tall with a 6'1" wingspan. She understands positioning. She knows how to cut off driving lanes. She can disrupt passing lanes with her length. And she's active. She doesn't take possessions off. All of that showed up in those final 2 possessions when Golden State tried to attack her. If you want breakdowns like this on Caitlin Clark and everything happening in the WNBA, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Now let me show you why the bad defender narrative has always been a lie. The narrative about Caitlin Clark being a bad defender has been around for years. It started in college. Critics would point to Iowa's defensive struggles and blame Clark. They'd ignore the fact that she was carrying the entire offense and playing heavy minutes. They'd ignore the fact that Iowa's defensive system wasn't built around individual lockdown defenders. They just looked at the team's defensive stats and decided Clark was the problem. And when she got to the WNBA, the narrative followed her. Analysts would talk about her offense and then add a disclaimer about her defense. She's an incredible offensive player, but she's not a great defender. Social media would clip every possession where she got beat and ignore every possession where she got a stop. And over time, it became accepted as fact. Caitlin Clark can't defend, except it was never true. Clark addressed this directly after Friday's game. She talked about why teams target her on defense, and it's not because she can't guard. It's because they're trying to wear her down. Clark said, "They're probably also putting me in those actions to make me tired. I bring the ball up 94 feet every single time." Like, that's what they want to do. They want to tire you out. Think about what that means. Caitlin Clark is the primary ball handler for the Fever. She brings the ball up the court on every single possession. She runs the offense. She's constantly moving without the ball to create spacing. She's fighting through screens. She's initiating plays. And by the fourth quarter, she's exhausted. So teams try to exploit that by attacking her on defense. It's a strategy, and it's a smart one. But it doesn't mean Clark can't defend. It means teams are trying to exploit her workload. And here's the thing. Even with that workload, Clark is still getting stops. On Friday night, the Valkyries hunted ISO on her all game. They attacked her repeatedly, and the Fever still held them to 82 points. Golden State shot 4 for 17 in the fourth quarter. Clark got 2 crucial stops in the final minute with 5 fouls. If she's really a defensive liability, none of that happens. The Fever don't win that game if Clark can't defend. But they did win. Because Clark can defend. She just proved it. Stephanie White was asked about Clark's performance after the game, and White praised her defense specifically. She said, "I thought her defense was really good." White also talked about how Clark is an emotional player, and how that emotion is part of what makes her great. That fire, that competitiveness, it shows up on both ends of the floor. And on Friday night, it showed up when the Valkyries tried to test her. White said, "She's an emotional player, and it's one of the things that makes her great. And I thought that she channeled it in a way that needed to be channeled for us to be successful." Let's talk about the stats. Caitlin Clark played 32 minutes against Golden State. She scored 22 points on 7 for 15 shooting. She hit 4 threes. She had 9 assists. She had 1 steal and 1 block. But the defensive impact doesn't always show up in the box score. The Valkyries shot 4 for 17 in the fourth quarter. That's a defensive effort from the entire team. But Clark was part of that effort. She was guarding. She was rotating. She was communicating. And when they tried to attack her directly, she got the stops. And let's not forget the context of this game. Clark was coming back from missing Wednesday's game with back soreness. She only played 13 games last season because of injuries. She's been managing her body carefully all year. And after sitting out one game to make sure her back was right, she came back and played 32 minutes in a physical, chippy game against a team that was hunting her on both ends of the floor. She got into it with Janelle Salon at halftime. She hit a logo 3 and talked trash to Tiffany Hayes. She picked up a flagrant foul on an illegal screen. She played with edge, she played with fire, and she backed it all up with performance. That's not someone who's a liability. That's someone who's a leader. The haters aren't going to stop. They never do. They'll find another game, another possession, another clip where Clark gets beat on defense, and they'll use it to keep pushing the narrative because that's what haters do. They ignore the evidence. They ignore the wins. They ignore the clutch stops. And they focus on the 1 or 2 plays where she made a mistake. But Clark isn't playing for the haters. She's playing to win games. And on Friday night, her defense helped the Fever do exactly that. The Fever are now 4-2, their best start through 6 games since 2012, the year they won the WNBA championship. They've won 3 straight games, and Caitlin Clark is a huge reason why. After the game, Clark talked about her confidence in her body. She said coming back from injury last season, when she only played 13 games, has been a real mental challenge, but She feels good now. She's taking care of her body. She's managing her workload, and she's playing at a high level on both ends of the floor. The bad defender narrative has always been lazy analysis. It's been a convenient way to criticize Clark without actually watching her play. But on Friday night, she addressed it directly. She said, "There's a narrative of me not being a great defender, but I can guard." And she proved it. 2 clutch stops in the final minute with 5 fouls. Valkyrie's hunting ISO on her all game and getting shut down. 4 for 17 shooting in the 4th quarter. Stephanie White praising her defense. The stats back it up. The performance backs it up. And Clark's explanation backs it up. Caitlin Clark silenced the bad defender narrative on Friday night. She got 2 clutch stops in the final minute with 5 fouls when the Valkyries were trying to attack her. She said, "There's a narrative of me not being a great defender, but I can guard." And she backed it up. She explained that she's long, she knows angles, she can get her hands out, and she's active. She explained that teams target her on defense to tire her out because she brings the ball up 94 feet every possession. Stephanie White praised her defense. The Fever held Golden State to 82 points and won their 3rd straight game. The narrative is dead. Caitlin Clark can defend. She just proved it. And the haters are in panic. What do you think? Did Caitlin Clark silence the bad defender narrative? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest on Caitlin Clark and everything happening in the WNBA. We'll see you in the next one.